is up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. This is a new series I want to try out, and we're going to see how it goes. I'm going to call this my Play and Chat series. And this is essentially where I'm going to play a game, and we're going to talk about different things within the video game industry and relating to blindness in general. So today, what we're going to talk about in the year of 2020, and I know we're all over the 2020 blind jokes by now, but I feel like it holds some relevance in this situation. Today, we're going to be talking about visual accessibility settings that the blind community, and honestly everybody in general, needs to see changing in 2020. This is a list of things I've compiled that I feel like are long overdue to be taken care of and to be implemented into the industry, and that's what we're going to chat a little bit about. So, we're going to be playing some Paladins. That's what we're playing today, Paladins, the game that I sink way too much of my life into. I have not done a full Is It Visually Accessible episode on Paladins yet, and I can definitely do that. If you guys want to see that, leave it in the comments below. But today, that's what I'm playing because I put way too much energy into this game. So I'm going to be playing Training today, which is essentially you are 5 real people on a team against the AI. And they have buffed the AI quite a bit, so it is actually quite a bit harder to beat than it used to be. It actually puts up a bit of a challenge now. But I feel like that's going to be easier so that I can focus on what I'm saying to you guys rather than worrying about somebody like sniping me every 3 seconds. So, that is the subject of what we are doing, and we're going to play Onslaught, which is first team to 400 points in the area wins. I'm playing Vivian. Vivian was the first champion that I really found myself able to play when I got this game. When I first downloaded it, I was trying a couple champions here and there, and I found Vivian to be the easiest for me to start with, and you will see why. So that's also something I can go a little bit more in depth in the Is It Visually Accessible Paladins episode if you guys want to see that. I'll probably do it anyway because I want to do it, but let me know if you want to see it. So she's my only champion that's over level 50, which is the level in which at 50 you get your gold skin for your champion. That essentially is like, you've made it. Like, you're good with this champion. You don't suck with it. Granted, some people buy the levels with coins, but I don't do that. I'll buy the first 10 so that I can get like the, you can get special talents that are unlocked and you have to unlock those up to like level 8 or something. So I'll buy up to that level so I can have all the talents and then I won't buy any more. And then from there on, it's like me actually earning the XP in order to level up. So most of my time has been sunk into Vivian. I have a couple other champions that are in the level 30 range that I've gotten up, but she's for sure the one that I've spent the most time and energy into and I feel the most proficient with. So she's kind of my fail-safe if I'm having a day where I feel like I'm not playing too great, or like in this situation where I'm going to be focusing on talking about other subjects. She's my girl. She's my go-to. So anyhow, after this ridiculously long intro, let's get into it. So, what are the accessibility settings that we need to see changing and becoming a standard across everything? All games, at least all new games, and ideally some patches in some games that can still get patches and updates. Number 1, freaking font sliders. This is the one where I feel like this is the one that everybody talks about because it's the most obvious. It is the most obvious one that needs to be fixed. Is font sliders. And this is a really interesting topic that's gotten more interesting over the last few days because I was actually scrolling around Twitter the other day, and actually over the last few days, hi Imani, how are you doing, girl? Dragon Queen, we love you. I've been seeing this over the last few days of people talking about how even sighted people are struggling with the font sizes in the games now. I mean, it's not just us anymore. It's kind of validation for us of like, yes, obviously this is way too small. But even sighted people are like, yo, why are we at 6-point font? What's going on? And that was really validating for me to read because it's not that I want anybody to suffer and struggle, but it kind of was like, now the rest of the community is starting to sort of understand the struggles that we deal with and the frustrations that we deal with. And I feel like, as sad as it is, that's going to kind of be the point in which it starts maybe getting taken seriously is like, oh, I just wiped out their whole team. That was satisfying AF. But that's the point where we're going to start to maybe see a little more changes, is because it's become such a community issue and an issue in the industry overall. And that's kind of bonkers to me because it shouldn't be, but it is. So I just hope that it's not something where it's like, oh, okay, everybody's complaining. They don't like 6-point font. Let's change it to 8. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I got kicked on that one. We need sliders that don't go from 6 to 10 or 6 to 12. We need sliders that are going from 6 to like 25. You know? Like, we need a very vast range of... did you guys just see that blind girl moment where I just didn't even... I wasn't even close to hitting her. I was just like shooting away. Oh man, vision loss. We love it. So, but I've seen some excuses of, oh well, the font size, you know, if it gets too big, it messes with the game and it messes with the user experience. And it's kind of like, I don't feel like that's a valid excuse. Because it's not up to the developer to decide, honestly. I mean, make your game in the best possible way you can so that everything looks good, because we all know aesthetics matter. But if you feel that the font looks better at 12 and it doesn't, oh, I don't like the way it looks at 16, I think it's too big, but it's not actually encroaching on anything in the game that's, you know, affecting other areas of the game, that's really not for them to decide. So I think it needs to be something where these need to be implemented standards and then let the user decide what they want to do. Whether, gosh, what is going on with my accent right now? Whether they want to see that really big font or they don't. Because truthfully, I mean, in the case for me, if it's not completely messing with the gameplay, I don't entirely mind text encroaching in other areas, especially if it's kind of a UI where it's a little bit more transparent in ways. Like, that doesn't bother me. I would rather be able to see pertinent information than not, because the font might be going a little bit too far into the scenery. You know? That's just kind of where I stand with that. But like I said, I don't feel like that's up to the developers to decide. Everything should obviously be seamless and cohesive, and you should be able to see everything. But if they feel that this isn't aesthetically pleasing, like I don't really care, because I want to be able to play the game. So font size sliders need to be a must, and they need to be a good range of size. And then that was kind of something that we talked about in my Dauntless video, which if you haven't seen that video, it is linked up in the cards above. But we talked about how they had 2 different font sizes, and that they were on the right track for going for visual accessibility, but it wasn't enough yet. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, where it's like, you did it, but you didn't complete it. And I feel like I say that a lot. Like, you started to do something good, but you didn't finish it. And I don't know if that's just a case of, you know, a lack of education or what it really is, a time constraint. I don't know what the excuse might be, but I think it's an excuse that does not need to exist anymore. We just need it to be sorted. And that's kind of just the tea on that. We need it to be sorted, and that's that. So, gosh, we are really just like destroying. I'm all sitting here like, yeah, the UI has gotten harder, and then here we are just like massacring. Oh, I hear a dragon. Thank goodness Imani's on my team. You never want to hear that dragon. As soon as I hear that on the opposing team, I'm ducking for cover, because that sucker will wipe out everything in its path. So thank goodness Imani's on my team. So, okay. The next thing that we're going to talk about, which I feel like goes with the font slider thing, is UI. UI sliders. Why these don't exist, I don't know. And I don't know about y'all, but for me, RPGs are such a struggle. Like, I feel like I have gotten so many RPGs I've downloaded demos on that I'm just like, that's not happening. Like, not just for the text, but also for the UI. Like, it's not happening. So I'm not particularly understanding why UI sliders are also not something that is being implemented. And I don't know if that goes back to the same sort of excuse of, oh, but it encroaches on the rest of the game. And it's kind of like, but does it though? I mean, does it really encroach on the game so much that you can't make it happen? I don't feel like that's a valid excuse in a lot of games, because I know there are some games that have pretty decently sized UIs that are still playable. I mean, in my Sims video last week, you guys saw me showing the UI slider and how big you can make things. Well, hey, top play. Thank you. Thank you. I accept my award. And if you haven't seen my Sims video, I will link that in the cards above. But they were able, you know, you're able to sort of change the UI and make it pretty dang big and still be able to play the game. And there were elements of it, like I think it was like the mood or relationship thing up top that was encroaching more in the screen that I would like. But I feel like that's something that could be fixed. You know, everything else that was in that region of the UIs being expanded, I didn't feel personally really impacted my gameplay. So that's kind of just where I'm at with that. Let's see, how did we do? Did I do okay? 26 kills, 2 deaths, 30 assists. Yeah, that was pretty good, actually. 83,000 damage, 12,000 shielding. Only 2 deaths was not bad at all. I guess it was the least on the team, but... And that's where I go back to saying Vivian's my girl. She's high damage. She has her downsides. Every champion does. That's how balancing works. But she's high damage, and that looking down those sights, that is the actual game changer for me, is being able to look down those sights. Like, because I can't really see the little reticle. Is that how you say it? I don't know. I can't see the little thingy thing. So that's where she was the easiest one for me to play. And like I said, now that I've played more champions, I've sort of gotten better at dealing with certain ones that don't have the ability to look down sights. But in the beginning, she was a huge help in me figuring out the mechanics of this game. So if you want to download this game, and it is a free-to-play game, she's a champion I would definitely recommend starting with or trying out for those of us with visual impairments. So anyhow, back to the UI sliders. I think that needs to come with the font sliders. I think the two need to be hand in hand. I don't necessarily, depending on the game, feel like you can have one without having the other. I feel like they go together. I think there are certain instances where you can get away with a font slider but not a UI slider. But I don't think you can get away with a UI slider without a font slider. You know what I mean? Like, they kind of just go together in that way. So that's those two things. Those are the two things that I feel like need to be done. They need to be industry standards at this point across all games. They just do. Unless your game does not have any text, it has a huge UI by default, and there's not a lot of games out there like that, truthfully. But unless you're one of those games, it needs to be implemented, period. That is where we're at with that. And that would just open up the world of gaming so much more, because I can't count how many games I've downloaded, like I said with the RPG thing, where I got this game and then it was like, well, this is cool, but I can't play it. I can't see the UI. I can't see the font, you know? So those are those. The next topic we're going to go into is a little bit more of a can of worms. And this is something that involves the 3 big consoles, and that is screen readers. So ever since I got my Switch back in like spring of last year, I have only played my Switch, and I mean a couple of games on my computer. But before getting my Switch, I was an Xbox console player. Like, that was everything that I played. Every game I got was on Xbox. And I started to trickle out of that because I started noticing that I was having a harder and harder time finding games. And when it finally got down to it, that was why I ended up buying my Switch, is because I just wanted to play some games that I knew I would be able to see. And Nintendo is pretty good about that. I feel like Nintendo, particularly when you go into things like the Mario series and that whole universe, Nintendo's kind of known for bright contrasting colors, larger, you know, implements of their sort of system and their games and stuff. Why? Okay. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, what is happening? Okay, everything just freaked out. Okay. That's sort of what they're known for. So I ended up getting a Switch initially because I just was like, I just want to freaking play something. I just want to play something that I can actually see. So I started out with, oh gosh, what was the first game I even got? I think the first game I got was Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. And then I got Super Mario Odyssey. And I was just so happy just to have some stuff I could play. So, but back to the original topic. Screen readers. So the Xbox has a screen reader. And when I discovered this accessibility setting, I was so freaking excited because I was like, oh my God, this is going to change everything. All these like games, these RPGs that I've been downloading and I can't play, I'm finally going to be able to play them. I'm so excited. And I was playing around with the screen reader and the voiceover and I was like, this is so cool. And then I got into the games and I started realizing as I was trying out games that the screen reader doesn't work in games. It only works in the main menus of the console. And it was kind of like, okay, but why though? Like, what is the point? Unless you're using your Xbox for a glorified Netflix machine, which the screen reader, as I recall, didn't even work in Netflix, whereas like if you have a Fire Stick, obviously it does. Why? Just why? I have so many whys. So it ended up being a huge bummer and kind of what felt like a waste of a feature because it was like, okay, well, you get to say you have a screen reader on your console so you look more accessible, but when you come down to it, it's not the most usable feature. And from what I understand, PlayStation is kind of the same way. I don't have a PlayStation 4. My husband does, but he only has like 2 games for it, and neither of us really plays it. So I don't know entirely how that connects to PlayStation. So if you're a PlayStation player, please let me know more about that in the comments below. But I feel like it's kind of the same thing from what I was reading. So that is a problem because you're kind of, people are under a false pretense that they're going to have this feature that's going to work, and then it's like, JK. And I don't really understand that. I don't understand why you would go through the effort to implement a feature that is not particularly usable. And going sort of along with that, Nintendo doesn't even have a screen reader. And I know Nintendo is sort of slow on the uptake when it comes to more certain things of updated features, like, you know, the whole voice chat thing where it's like, it's kind of just a mess. And their online play can be kind of a mess. But they don't even have one. And all 3 of these consoles do have a magnifying glass. But the thing with the magnifying glass that I noticed was, at least with the Xbox, and mind you, I haven't played my Xbox in like a year, so I don't know if this has changed. But when I last played my Xbox, you could use the magnifying glass, but you could not use the magnifying glass while the game was in motion. If you used the magnifying glass, the game would effectively pause in a sense, like everything would stop moving. So it was like, okay. Like, again, there's issues with that need to be sorted. Because if I could quickly look at the magnifying glass and zoom in real quick on something while I'm doing something else, you know, while I'm like running in an open area or something, like that would be cool, but I have to stop and then do it. And why? And obviously those of us with visual impairments have gotten pretty dang good at multitasking because, you know, we've learned to sort of make an inaccessible world a little more accessible to us. But that just was something that sort of baffled me a little bit. So screen readers, I feel like, need sorting. Oh, I did awful that round. I mean, I did more pushing the payload than almost everyone else, but like, oh, the kills, no deaths, so that's good. Only 3 kills, 11 assists. Not my best. Not my best. Okay. So that's just something that I feel like we need to see fixed. Why have a screen reader if you're not fully going forward with it? That doesn't make sense to me. So those are the things that I really want to see changed in 2020. The font sliders and the UI sliders are absolutely a must. They need to be done. The screen readers, I feel like with 2 new consoles coming out, the new Xbox console and the new PlayStation 5, I feel like that's a really good opportunity for them to fix some of these things, particularly the screen reader issue and the magnifying glass issue, and make them more user-friendly. I think with new consoles coming out, I feel like there's not really an excuse not to do that, but the big game developers kind of do what they want to do sometimes. So font sliders, UI sliders, must. End of story, period, need to be done. The other stuff I would really like to see changed within the next year, 2 years, I feel like would be a huge, huge step up for the blind and visually impaired community. But I understand that that's a whole other topic in itself, and that's a lot more technology based. I don't really think it's an excuse. I'm just saying. But the font sliders and the UI sliders, come on. If you guys can put out full DLC on games and constant updates and patches on online games, there is no dang reason why you cannot fix those 2 things, you know? So those are my thoughts on that. That is what I want to see for visual accessibility changes in the year 2020. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know, what are your must-haves for 2020 for visual accessibility? What are the things that you really want to see changed? Because, I mean, my list may not be the end-all be-all list. Maybe there's things I forgot. There probably is, let's be honest. So if you guys want to see that, make sure you're scrolling through the comments and engaging with each other and talking about each other's lists, because this is how we're going to get the word out to the developers and the industry as a whole, is us putting out our comments. Keep being active on Twitter, keep being active on Instagram, keep posting and talking about it, and let's not let this conversation die, because it is high past time that these things were implemented as an industry standard. So if you like this video, make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my blind girl gamer content. Let me know if you like this play and chat structure, where I play a game and try not to suck, and I talk about something related to blindness and or the gaming community. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. And I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. And I hope you're still enjoying your new year. I hope you're not over it already. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.